Morning, everybody. It is, what day is it today, Olga? It is March 19th, 2026.
Thursday.
Welcome to Pax
Thursday.
Americana. It's Thursday. It's only Thursday. I'm Julie Roginski here with Olga Lautman. And good to see everybody. Olga, World War III, it is upon us.
Don't you love how they project Trump, Putin, that if Biden wins, the Russians were saying it, or if Harris then wins, that World War III is coming, and here Trump won, and you had the whole Trump crew, literally all the propagandists, Trump, his whole campaign, he called threatening World War III, and here we are, and interesting. And I actually just tweeted on Twitter, this is incredible. I cannot stop thinking, how is it that there are no guardrails and that one man can literally not only overturn everything in America and, that we're on the brink of collapse with our democracy and institutions and everything, but cripple the whole global economy and upend the whole world order. One man, no one can stop him. This is the most ridiculous thing that I have heard. And really, there need to be better guardrails, domestically and to prevent a situation like this. I mean, one man, literally, you have every country scrambling, counting the last of their oil. And they have whatever weeks in reserves. Some don't have reserves. And you have oil that now they're projecting $200 to $250 a barrel that it might go to. One person did this.
It's really unbelievable when you think about the fact that everybody is sitting around waiting for one madman to make a decision. I don't even know if he's a madman. There's one person who benefits from this. And it's really just amazing how it always comes down to one person benefiting from this. And the one person benefiting from this is Vladimir Putin. Because, yes, on the one hand, his allies, the Iranians, are on their last legs, but he doesn't really care about his allies no more than he cared about Assad. I mean, it was just a means to an end, right? Like the Shahed drones that he was getting from Ukraine saved his war in the beginning, but he'll probably figure out something else there with the money that he's making on oil that is now, and natural gas that has just gone through the roof. I mean, you think about the fact that Russia's basically a petro state and that their economy was teetering because the price of oil had gone down so much. And now the price of oil, as you said, is going to go up to over $200 a barrel. And at the same time, by sheer coincidence, Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, announced that by lo and behold, we're taking sanctions off of Russian oil at sea.
I'm laughing about the next one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Don't believe it, friends. For a month, this is a permanent. I mean, in a month, they're going to say, well, the price of oil is so high. We need to obviously take sanctions off so we have more oil in the market. It's the poor Ukrainians who are the ones to have come to our defense and have said to us that we will sell you anti-drone technology. And at first Trump said no, and I think now he said yes, because I think it's getting desperate. But the fact that we have to get military technology from the Ukrainians, I mean, what does that tell you about where we are in the Pentagon right now, by the way, also, Olga?
Yeah, and I mean, they already sent experts to the Middle East. There's a few hundred engineers and drone experts who right now are in the Middle East who arrived this week and last week to assist with this. But I have to say, the Ukrainians really need to step it up because with this Russia's new windfall, that's oil at sea. Ukrainians have a chance to basically start pounding the oil refineries as they have been doing. They need to bomb every single one of them across Russia in order to prevent more oil to be allowed to go through. Because right now Russia has, the 10 billion potentially that they're going to make is the oil that's been like, lingering around the oceans and floating through their shadow fleet. But at the same time, this genius that we have had the most genius idea. And just can you imagine if this was Biden or Obama or frankly any other president to now remove sanctions off of oil from Iran? I mean, I cannot. I read this. I almost spit out my coffee when I saw this. I was like, you're kidding me. So we are bombing a country that, quote unquote, posed an imminent threat, despite the fact we still have not been provided any evidence of anything imminent. And his whole clown show of national security directors and the counterterrorism Nazi and all of them are coming out and saying there is no imminent threat. And he's bombing, sending more troops for a potential ground invasion. The Israelis, which absolutely, I mean, this really pissed me off. The Israelis bombed close to the Bashir nuclear plant, and I'm like, come on, what is it? The Russians always are bombing nuclear plants. The Israelis bombed it. I mean, this would cause, forget it, what would happen across the Middle East. And this genius decides, oil is getting expensive. Let's think about lifting sanctions off of Iranian oil. Like, did anybody sit and think anything through, or did everyone get purged who had like 2 brain cells to understand if you start a war with Iran, this is going to happen? Because no one thought about the Americans stranded there. Saudi Arabia today is again calling for Americans to evacuate. We're like 3 weeks in. What do you mean you're calling for Americans to evacuate? No one thought about getting any Americans out. No one thought about what would happen if the Strait of Hormuz would be shut down, which literally is a scenario that the Pentagon has gamed out since the 1980s. No one thought about anything. I guess that happened when you let Loomer purge the whole National Security Council.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you've got Pete Hegseth giving speeches at the Pentagon about how we have to do this in the name of Jesus Christ, and like the whole thing coming from a guy who has a Jerusalem cross on his chest and has all this crusader nonsense going through the threads of whatever he says. I mean, this begins to look very much like a holy war that is really not well thought out. I mean, this could potentially be the stupidest thing that Trump has ever done. This may be the stupidest thing the United States government has ever done, period. I mean, like, say what you will about the Iraq war, and I can't believe George Bush is starting to look good by comparison, which is already a sin. But like the fact that Bush at least had a plan, it was a shitty plan. I mean, they thought we'd be greeted as liberators, and obviously that wasn't the case. But at least there was a plan to seize the means of production of oil quickly, right? Meanwhile, you've got something very different here, which is they just decided to do it and let the chips fall where they may, and truly assumed that the regime would collapse because Bibi convinced, and I think so did Mohammed bin Salman, once again convinced Donald Trump to do something that they didn't want to do by themselves. Bibi's been trying to convince American presidents going back to George Bush for 25 years to do this. And everybody said no because everybody understood what was going to happen. And then, of course, this idiot said yes. So, what do we say to that?
And just, what bothers me, another thing, which is a very clear comparison to Russia. Yesterday, I watched Tulsi Gabbard, not to mention Russia's girl, testifying. And you saw how scared she was to actually tell the real intelligence. She wrote it down that there's no imminent threat, but she didn't want to repeat it. She didn't want to answer it. She didn't want to put herself, publicly on record of saying this. And I keep thinking, Trump purged everyone. I mean, literally, he first, took over every agency. They purged everyone to the point that even the FBI recently, a few days before they launched a war on Iran, purged the Iranian counterterrorism experts in the FBI. And what I keep thinking is that Trump purged everyone, and here you have a situation where you literally have these sycophants who are surrounding him. And they are scared, or either for fear or for self interest, because they like their positions and they see, a future for themselves. They don't want to say the truth. And what if we are in a situation just like Putin? You think people in the Russian government thought it was a good idea to launch a full scale invasion into Ukraine? Do you think, I remember Narishkin, who is the head of SVR, who mentioned, even like hinted at a National Security Council, that's not really a good idea prior to the full scale invasion. And I really was waiting days and days to see if he's going to get thrown out of a window, if you saw Putin's face. No one wanted to tell Putin, you are not going to be greeted as a liberator in Ukraine. Ukrainians are not going to welcome us with open arms. They don't want us here. Instead, they fed him everything, that he wanted to hear. Yes, we're going to be able to take Ukraine in 5 days. Yes, we're going to, they're going to welcome us. Yes, we're going to liberate them. And there's all this lies. And then on top of it, you had traders in Ukraine like Medvedchuk and others who were, working with the Russians for a long time, and Russian practically agents. I mean, Medvedchuk, Putin is his daughter's godfather, who were feeding, because they were making so many billions of dollars off of stealing from Ukraine natural resources, that he was feeding Medvedchuk, and all the other Russian, traders inside of Ukraine were feeding Putin and the security services. Yes, we're going to seize buildings immediately. We're going to take over, all the parliament and everything. And that's it, and laid out this easy plan. Some did it. Medvedchuk did it for self-interest because he made so much money with the Russians and will continue making money with the Russians. Now he's in Russia. And others did it out of fear because they didn't want to tell Putin the truth that, this is not a well thought out plan. And maybe we should not invade a sovereign country that is like literally the third largest country in Europe.
I mean, look, the bottom line is that he has been totally played by everybody. He's been played by Putin. He's been played by Netanyahu. He's been played by Mohammed bin Salman. The only people who haven't played him are the Europeans, because they seem to be coming at this from a genuine perspective, and that's not how you deal with him. I mean, it's just not. And the faster the Europeans realize this, and I think they're finally starting to realize it. I mean, look, they're basically saying, we're not coming to your defense in Iran. We're not risking our navies for your dumbass war. We're not helping you reopen the Strait of Hormuz in a war that is completely it makes no sense. I mean, they have their own intelligence that told them that Iran was nowhere near making a nuclear weapon. Most of them had diplomatic relations with Iran. So for them, this is not their fight. And you've got the poor Prime Minister of Japan showing up here today for a meeting with Trump. 9% of the Japanese public supports this war. Meanwhile, Japanese petrol is at the highest it's ever been in recorded history. They're an island, right? Like they're not, it's not easy for them. And I'm actually off to Japan tomorrow, so I'll find out for sure. I'll let you know. But it strikes me that this woman is showing up here, the Prime Minister of Japan, where Trump is going to ask the Japanese to send their navy to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. They are constitutionally not allowed to use their military for anything other than self-defense. That was part of their constitution post-World War II that we wrote. Now, Trump doesn't care about constitutional norms. He certainly doesn't care about people, public opinion when it doesn't suit him. So he doesn't care what people in Japan think. He doesn't care about the Japanese constitution. But this kind of stuff that is going to create even more enemies for the United States. We are just the world's bully. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. We used to be, never used to live. I mean, I can't say I lived up to this wholeheartedly, but I mean, we used to kind of stand for the proposition that we were spreading democracy around the world, we're the leader of the free world, and so on and so forth. And now I'd love to hear from people in the chat who are not American, what your impression of our country is. Because we have just become the world's bully. And this whole bullshit, like, America, fuck yeah, we're going to go, like, onward Christian soldiers, we're going to go and start this holy war in the Middle East again. It's always, if you noticed, the crazy right-wing evangelicals, whether it's Bush or it's Hegseth or people like that, who are all gung-ho about starting these Middle East wars. Right?
Yep. Someone had a question, and I said it very quickly. So there was an oligarch in Ukraine, Medvedchuk, and this is a perfect example for people in Europe of how Russia forms and pays political parties. He has started a political party. And basically, it was a Russian, pro-Russia, Russian-funded, Russian-controlled political party inside of Ukraine. Putin is his daughter's godfather. Medvedchuk, after the full-scale invasion, was arrested for treason on charges of treason, and like months after, he was exchanged. The Russians handed over, I believe it was 100-something Ukrainian prisoners of war for him. So that's how much of a value he was, that the Russians handed over a lot of Ukrainians for this one Medvedchuk. He now lives in what is it called, in Russia, and he's still been running a lot of operations across Europe, including information warfare operations, fake websites, and doing everything to prop up all the far-right parties in Europe and actually in the United States. He had his fingerprints in our election in 2024. So that's that. As far as what you're saying, I agree 100%. I mean, really, like, I am so embarrassed. I would right now, if I traveled overseas, I'd be embarrassed to say I'm from America. Like, I would be embarrassed, and this is the first time ever, because America has, been the savior of so many people in this world. And the fact of what we're allowing, not only are we, I mean, Trump isn't even done with, crippling the global economy and upending the world order. He's already now on to Cuba and threatening their next. I mean, like, how many wars? He hasn't even finished one.
I don't think,
doesn't look like it's going to end.
Yeah. And I want to say this about Cuba, because I don't even know that people in the United States are paying attention to what's going on. Their electric grid has collapsed. Their people are starving because of our embargo that we have doubled down on. And we basically have a flotilla that is Cuba is also an island, preventing anything from getting through. We are purposely starving the people of Cuba.
And the hospitals. They collapsed.
And the hospitals. Everything is collapsed. And this is an island 90 miles off the coast of Florida. Listen, what has propped up the Cuban regime for so long, and they know this, the Cubans, is that they don't have to look at themselves and say, we suck, which they do. They can point to us and say, all of your problems emanate from the United States. So we've created, for the last 60 years, a very convenient structure that allows the Cuban regime to blame everything, not on themselves, but on us. I don't understand what we think is going to happen after we purposely starve and kill these people with this embargo, because Marco Rubio has this typical Florida Cuban generational hard-on for the Castros. and for the Cuban regime that's there now. And then what's interesting is Trump said, again, much like Venezuela, okay, the regime can state that the president has to go. Okay, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. What is that about? Right? So the Cuban regime gets to stay, the same regime that's been oppressing its people for 60 years. Just the president has to go. Much like Maduro had to go, but Delcy Rodriguez is there. She's just giving away whatever oil interests the United States is into. She's still oppressing dissidents there. It's not like life has gotten better for the people of Venezuela. And it's going to happen in Iran too. I mean, in Iran, you have 1 million Revolutionary Guard. What do we think is going to happen to them? All of a
Sorry,
sudden,
and I'm just go ahead.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is just absurd.
No, I just wanted to check because yesterday you mentioned Venezuela, and I just put in my tracker that Rodriguez, the one that Trump loves, who was the vice president to Maduro and now is the president. She just fired the defense minister and put in a new defense minister who is sanctioned by us and who is known for torture and all the crackdowns and all the atrocities that we see in Venezuela against opposition. So this is now the new defense minister who is in charge. So absolutely, just like you said, the system did not change. Everything is still in place, minus one man and his wife who are here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is just absurd. Meanwhile, back in Russia, Olga, what's happening?
To get into more absurd, I'm telling you, like we literally, maybe the aliens or someone is like running a simulation because things cannot be this stupid. Like we fell into the most stupid timeline ever, and we need to figure out how to crawl out of it. In Russia, you have several things happening. One, the Kremlin has cracked down on the internet. So now you have people in Moscow who were pretty much to this point exempt from, any hardships from Russia's genocidal invasion in Ukraine. And now it's hitting the Muscovites because now they are having internet issues, which, by the way, started last year because my family in Omsk, they haven't had internet. I mean, forget it. And my mom thinks that, the internet was shut because they have oil refineries and they don't want to have the capability, I guess, of setting off some kind of something on the internet. I don't know. But the internet in other regions has been on and off, and it's been shutting down. Now it's finally reached to Moscow. Not only that, they are shutting down Telegram. They've slowed down traffic to 80%. They slowed it down by 80%. So right now, for people who are trying to post, they still can. If it's text, it's getting through, I guess, within a day. Photos and other things, videos. Good luck with that. Russia has been discussing this, and now they finally rolled it out. They want to move everyone like China has WeChat. Russia wants to move everyone over to their messenger called Max, and Max is clearly connected to everything's connected to the security services, but this one is designed by security services, so anyone who texts anything is automatically going to be flagged if it's, something that troubles or is not in line with the Kremlin. This Max thing is so funny because I read that some government officials are actually buying burner phones to put this Max thing on because they don't want this Max thing on their phone. So that's that. Yeah. So you have the old school. You remember in the Soviet Union, like my mom told me this, and it still happens. That if you mention certain words on the phone, how like you'd hear like a click, and then you knew that the KGB had tapped into the phone, or they would just disconnect your phone call completely. This is what is happening now, like on a much more grand scale with technology.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you mentioned your family in Omsk. For people who don't know where Omsk is by the Kazakhstan border in Siberia. So it is nowhere near Ukraine. It is nowhere near where you might say they're giving aid and comfort to the enemy. I mean, Omsk is I don't know, 1,000 miles southeast of Moscow. I mean, it's far.
Yeah.
So
Right
I think
above Kazakhstan, my
right
mom
above
said
Kazakhstan.
there are so many Kazakhs in Omsk because you have, cross border, especially during the Soviet Union.
Yeah, of course. So the point is, they're shutting this down not just for people on the border with Ukraine. They're shutting this down for people who are thousands of miles away from Ukraine, who are, if you look at a map and you see where Omsk is, I mean, it's just literally smack dab in the middle of Russia, right, right by the Ural Mountains, right, Olga? I mean, it's in the south, in
Yep.
Siberia. So
Yep.
it's pretty amazing. I didn't know your mom was from Siberia, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
wow.
from Omsk. Although
Okay.
I haven't, she still talks to the family. I stopped talking to them in 2014 after they were very gung ho for the invasion and seizing of Crimea, and I was like, "Fuck off," and that was the end of that. But my
Yeah.
mom, I mean, my grandmother is like in the 90s, so my mom still talks to, well, although she can't now get in touch with her for months, but she still talks to my grandmother, and she still, deals with with them. I don't. I'm like after 2014, I kind of had that internal battle amongst myself, the
Yeah.
Ukrainian and the Russian side. But yeah, and they started in August. August this started where the lady who watches my grandmother told my mom that it's like their internet is spotty. By September it was like disappearing for days and then would reappear, and now it's just completely gone off. That's it. Like they still had a chance by even November to use VPN to make calls outside. WhatsApp is shut down. Everything is shut down. I mean, literally, it is the Soviet Union. They're bringing the Iron Curtain back soon. They're going to have to, like my mom did, rig like the antenna to hear what's happening on Radio Svoboda and see what's happening in the
Well,
real world.
except Voice of America shut down. Radio Free Europe is shut down. There's a lawsuit about that right now, but the reality is they are doing everything possible to give Putin everything
Yeah.
he wants, including getting rid of things like Voice of America and Radio Free Europe, which was the way that people in the Soviet Union used to get real information about what was happening. And it costs pennies to run these things. And yet we got rid
Mhm.
of them. We got rid of Radio Farsi, which was our streaming service into Iran. I mean, why would we do that if we're trying to get people to uprise against their own government? So it's just,
Because we have a genius, genius who's
I mean,
thought everything through.
everything about this is just absurd. And then you brought something to my attention. You sent me right before the show started a Russian language newspaper
Oh
article.
yeah,
Yeah,
Fantanka.
why don't you talk about that?
And just to get back, wait to Radio for Europe and Golos America. Um, I yesterday, leading into this, yesterday I was looking. So is a famous Russian blogger who is partly responsible. I'm not sure how responsible, but he caused a lot of noise around Navalny. Ended up, getting Navalny and his organization, like more attention on it and whatnot years ago. So this is a pro-Kremlin blogger, and he has always praised Putin and praised the Kremlin and praised Russia and praised everything. I mean, this is like a true propagandist. So yesterday, there were reports. I mean, this was a breaking story across all Russian opposition media that he had, suddenly written like a very long post on Telegram, basically saying that Putin needs to be arrested for war crimes and carrying on the corruption and this and that. And he wrote like a very detailed post of exactly why, this is why Putin needs to go and why there needs to be change in Russia. Interestingly enough, when I was searching his name to see what outlets are picking up, I found this outlet, and this goes back to Pax America. I found this outlet called Votak. And I was like, Votak, I've never seen this. Like, who is this? So I actually
What duck?
asked
Like,
Chat,
so like
like,
that?
what, yeah,
What's the duck?
what,
Okay.
what duck?
Gotcha.
Hmm. Exactly. What, like duck, like this, like that, like this.
Yeah.
So I hey, call search to see who this outlet belongs to because it's opposition. Clearly, it has all opposition stories and investigations in Russia and whatever. And I'm like, what the hell? How is it? I don't know because I know, like, the Insider, Medusa, all of them. Sure enough, this is a project from the Polish government that they launched in 2017 um, to basically get to the Russians, Ukrainians, and Russians in occupied territories, Belarusians, and others. And that's why I laughed because I'm like, well, America has stepped out of it, but Poland is clearly still has something. And it's called Votak TV. So they have print, but I assume if it's Votak TV, that there's also a TV version. Anyway, so this blogger was the big news. Yesterday I was skeptical. I'm still very skeptical. We'll see, I'll make my determination. But yesterday I was skeptical because Russia's cracking so hard right now down on internet and Telegram and everything. They usually, when they have like heightened crackdowns, they always set up scenarios where they have someone turn against the Kremlin publicly, and that flushes out anyone who potentially could be like a underground like resistance. Because people feel like if one person can say something, then they get emboldened and will say something. And then the FSB starts collecting a list of people who are problematic that they need to deal with. So this is always the case from the Soviet Union to now. I mean, this is always how it's been. So I was a little skeptical with this, but then today, Fontanka, which is a St. Petersburg paper, they're excellent paper. They always have the best gossip and news and everything. They reported that this blogger was put into a mental institution. Well, overnight, our time, and during the day in Russia. And that he was institutionalized. And I mean, this, for people who don't know, Julie will go back to Stalin. I know Brezhnev because that's what my family grew up under. And um, under him, this was like the biggest practice ever. Anyone who questioned anything about the regime, I mean, you could just one question, you'll be, labeled schizophrenic and thrown into the mental institution. So that was a very big practice under him. Putin had brought it back around, I would say, 2017, 18, and really ramped it up around Navalny's arrest. You had more and more people who were being picked up across the country when there were protests and thrown into mental institutions and injected with God knows what kind of drugs, and then, forced to put out, some of them forced to put out statements that they lost their mind, and this is why they made a critical statement. So yeah, this guy now is sitting in a mental institution.
Of course. I mean, of course. The reality is that we're going back to the bad old days. I mean, they're already here. In some ways, it's actually worse now than it was under Brezhnev. Because under Brezhnev, you weren't automatically thrown into prison for saying something. I mean, we're approaching, I wouldn't say Stalinist levels, but we're trending in the wrong direction there. And not just there, here as well. I mean, I don't know if you saw this new human rights assessment that just came out, but the United States precipitously fell on the democracy rankings. We're now like 54th or something in the world, and trending downward. Never in 1 year has it fallen as precipitously as it fell this year for anybody, I think. So, like, not to sound like Tucker Carlson, but what's going on? What are we doing here? Like, it's not good. It's not
No,
good.
we need to wake up because people are waking up, but we need to be more active. And I think people here are too trained to wait for elections. And right now, everyone is kind of sitting on the sidelines preparing for midterms. We're going to take it back, which is very well. And we need to. I mean, we need to vote in the most overwhelming numbers and no FBI, voting machine seizures, no ballot seizures, nothing will stop this. But people also need to be prepared, for what comes after because Trump might not honor the results. He might steal all the ballots and say, nope, nope, nope. So we need to seriously work this out now, like this second. Now,
And
make a plan.
I always shake my head because everybody's getting excited. I think next weekend I'll be away, but next weekend is yet another march, right? We haven't had one since maybe September, and the No Kings rally. And really, we're doing this once every 6 months? Like, if we were the French, we'd be out on the streets every day. And we just in this country don't have a culture of protest like that. We don't have a culture of, because we really are rule obeyers. Like, we very much play by the rules, and the government, because we have always believed that our Constitution will hold and the government abides by the Constitution. And so therefore we have to respect whoever the government is for that reason. This government is extrajudicial. They are not abiding by the Constitution. They're just not. And the reality is that we are now the bullies of the world. We should have known when he went to Venezuela that he wasn't going to stop with Venezuela. We should have known when he was going to go into Iran that he would have no plan. Now with Cuba on the brink of collapse, I don't know what, I mean, this is like The Godfather, right? Like Godfather 2, where apparently American industry is going to go in and what? Like Trump's going to start another Trump casino in Havana, and the rich are going to get richer, but nobody's going to give a shit about
Kushner. Kushner's
Yeah.
probably already
Kushner
visiting the island.
Yeah, there's going to be some, Kushner development or Trump development in Havana, because it's, as Trump said, it's prime real estate, and laughably said it's not in the hurricane zone. Like, what?
He's thought that part out. Didn't think about it.
He's obviously mixing up Aruba and Cuba because he has no idea that Cuba, of course, is very much in the hurricane belt. I mean, how many times has Cuba been battered? And he's just.
Although I have to say, I got stuck in a hurricane in Aruba, so the odds. But go ahead.
Well,
it's
I know.
Not supposed to. It's not supposed
I know.
to.
I mean, the point is, he's just completely. He doesn't even know on a map where anything is. I mean, that's the part that's scary to me. He has no clue. I don't think he ever knew what the Straits of Hormuz was before he ever attacked Iran. I think he has no clue where Cuba is on a map. I think he has no clue whatsoever Venezuela is on a map. I mean, we have a moron as president, and he's being led around by the nose by a bunch of crazy apocalyptic evangelicals domestically, by people whose agenda is not the United States internationally, and by people who don't wish us well, like Vladimir Putin. And I mean, if you're Benjamin Netanyahu, you must have thought like you hit the jackpot with this idiot being in the White House, because you have tried this bullshit on every American president in the last 25 years, and every single one of them told you to pound sand. And now this guy, is like, sure, I'll do it. No problem. I'm going to put the United States military at risk here. There are people, I watched that dignified transfer of those troops coming home in coffins. And I sat there and I just turned to my husband and I said, but for what? Like, why are these people dead? What for? Like in Afghanistan, fine. They attacked us on 9/11. I get it. Like, I get it. But why are they dead? Why are these people dead? And I was watching, these coffins being transferred, and I'm thinking, why? Why? I mean, there are people who don't have fathers now, and mothers and sisters and brothers, and because he decided he was going to do what in Iran? I mean, we know how this is going to end. The regime will be strengthened. He will anoint some IRGC member as the new leader of Iran. The Israelis are never going to want to stop. He's going to get bored. He's ultimately going to stop as soon as the price of oil keeps going up and up and up and up, and he sees his numbers going down and down and down and down. He's going to just, one day he's going to wake up and say this is over without anything being accomplished. And at the end, all the people who are dead will have been dead for nothing. Nothing.
And can I just
yeah, well, just one more thing. The Pentagon is looking for $200 billion with the B dollars to fund the war in Iran. That is more than we've given Ukraine in the 4 years that it's been fighting our war for us.
Yep. Yeah. And can I just add one thing? That these Americans are dead, potentially at the hands of Russia, because Russia has been giving targeting information to kill Americans. And not only are they giving targeting information on American assets and movements and soldiers and positions and everything, they're also giving before and after satellite images reportedly and saying, okay, you're going to need to, for the next attack, do this, and giving expertise on top of it for Iranians to strengthen their attacks. And if you see over the past few weeks, their attacks are basically like it flatlined and now it's going back up where they have accuracy. And the 6 Americans who were killed on the first day, potentially Russia was the one who gave these targets and coordinates. So you have a traitor, a piece of shit, treasonous piece of shit. This infuriates me, who stands there and praises Putin, who is doing everything to kill innocent Americans, because these soldiers don't want to be there. They are stuck between a rock and a hard place. What are they going to do? Say, lay down their arms, say no?
Well, it's interesting to say this. There's a story, again, because we're being plied with so much shit that nobody's focusing at any one specific story. But there was a story that the USS Gerald Ford, apparently, there's a fire on the USS Gerald Ford, which is an aircraft carrier, that has been this aircraft carrier. These people were deployed. They were supposed to go home months ago. Their deployment keeps getting extended. And now they're being basically sent to the Gulf, and they've had it. They didn't sign up for this kind of deployment. And apparently they might have set fire to their own quarters just to prevent from going to the Gulf. I mean, people are stretched thin. And these are people who signed up to serve the country. These are not a bunch of, wallflowers. But I mean, how much more are you going to do to these people?
And for what? There has to be a reason. People get motivated, and this is what Putin found out very quickly, that the people that he is brought in to seize Ukraine, they didn't have motivation. They were there for like $1,000 because Russia plucked them out of some freaking village where they've never even seen $1 US, never mind anything. So you had a lot of people from outer regions who were being plucked in, given, pennies on the dollar here, which for them was a big thing to go fight, but there's no motivation. Ukrainians, people think superhumans, there's motivation. That plays a big factor. If you are, defending your homeland, you don't need to be a soldier. You could be a mother, you could be a grandmother, you will do everything you can to defend your homeland. And the same thing here, when 9/11 happened, you had this all of us, every single person who went through 9/11 and experienced that day had this rallying around, I guess, the flag and like, fuck no, this is our country. You are not coming into our country and killing our people. You saw recruitment go through the roof. People are like, send me to wherever, Afghanistan, send me to the Middle East. I am going to, seek revenge for what happened on my soil. There you had motivation. Now it's like no one even knows what we're doing there. Like we still don't know what we're doing there. The freaking like no one's bothering to feed us a story. Trump is literally using the Russian disinformation strategy of just pouring 50 different things that don't make sense out for people to decide which one that they like, is the reason that we're going. And I'm watching how think tanks sees on one point, others who want regime change, like the poor Iranian diaspora who want regime change, they're seizing on his regime change comment. But he's putting like literally 12, 15 reasons of why we're there, and none of them make sense, and every day they're contradicting each other. And so, I mean, here the fact is, I feel so bad for our military because they are, being forced to take these actions that they didn't ask for. Like they don't want to do this. Who wants to go and put themselves into war and maybe a small fringe, but the majority of the U.S. military doesn't want to do this, and the whole thing is just sickening. It really makes me so angry. And for what he's doing to all of us, everyone, the whole country, to the whole world. I mean, and that no one is stopping him. And the Republicans, literally, I don't know how this country runs, but like the Republicans need to be banned and voted out of office, and like no one needs to ever re-vote, to put them back into office for a long time, because the fact they're allowing this to happen. I mean, they are sitting there and watching the world burn and still standing on Fox News and CNN and whatnot, and with these like propaganda talking points, when this is not politics as usual. Like we are like, he's dragging this country into hell.
Yeah, and he doesn't care, and they don't care because all they care about is placating him. All right, friends. Olga, anything else for the good of the order? Other than by the time I come back in 2 weeks, God only knows where this country's going to be. I am, just as a programming thing, I am off to Asia tomorrow, so I will be back. Olga and I will not be here for the next 2 weeks, but we will be back the week of April 6th. What was that? April 9th, 10th. I forgot when that Thursday's.
Yeah, 9th, I think. Let me see.
April 9th. So we will be back April 9th, and actually we'll be back April 9th. Yes. One more programming thing. Olga and I and Michelle Kinney, my co-founder at this network, at the Mayday Network.
Mayday.
No, I know the name. I'm just like Jeff Jarvis, Nina Jankowicz, Lieutenant Colonel Jacqueline Urso, Craig Miller, a whole bunch of really incredible people are doing a new podcast called The Illegals. It is about the Americans. We're watching the Americans. We're doing an Americans rewatch. And the first episode of that is up. The second one will be up this week. So please tune in for that. Go to the Mayday Network on YouTube and find us there. And you could watch us talk about all of that. If you have not yet watched The Americans, watch it and then follow it along with us every week as we do the show. So thank you to everybody who's already watched and let us know about that. And people who have not yet done that, go do it. It's a lot of fun. And it's kind of an incentive of this podcast, but much more cultural. So there you go. All right, everybody. Great to see you all. And I will see you.
Have a great trip. I'm going to miss you 2 whole weeks.
See you guys in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.